Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself?
No. I mean, how many Jeffrey Epstein type people are out there?
Well, that's right.
That's the real question. And another one of my heroes, Pat Tillman, who left the NFL to join the Army. His death is very suspicious as well, in that, not the fact we know that he was killed by friendly fire, but the way they handled his body afterwards, his uniform, confiscating his last journal.
Any guesses?
Well, Ghislaine Maxwell has a lot of ties to the Mossad.
Yep.
That would make sense. I mean, Jeffrey didn't seem to get some of the appointments he was given in prominence based on merit, using his death to prop up the war propaganda. There's been a lot of great people in history who are super patriotic, who've questioned their government, and I think that's what I've done since I was a kid.
And pardon my ignorance, I did.
What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to look at a bunch of clips of two things that I saw that Aaron Rodgers talked about with Tucker Carlson. First one is he talked about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. A lot of interesting stuff was said there. He even referenced an old Nixon quote about Bohemian Grove that we're going to read. Pretty crazy stuff. Then I want to talk about his video with Pat Tillman. He talks about Pat Tillman, who is an NFL player who went and fought for the United States in Afghanistan and was killed. He said some very interesting stuff about that. And before we do that, after I play the intro video, I do want to show you a quick little Instagram reel that I made about the Prime Minister of Slovakia, who had an assassination attempt against his life today when I woke up. And there were a lot of interesting stuff. He was going against the EU, the UN, the World Health Organization. So we're going to look at that, talk about it. Give me a thumbs up for the algorithm and a thumbs up in the chat. Thanks for being here, folks. Dream Rare podcast starts now. I have to focus for this one. I have like 15 clips I'm going to play.
It's the Dream Rare podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube and Rumble? I know you're there. I can't see you, but I know you're there. I don't know why I can't see you, but my program doesn't really show it. But I know somewhere out there, you guys are listening as well, and I appreciate you. So let me get into it real quick. Let's play this clip of the Prime Minister of Slovakia. I made a 47-second, video about it or around that. I don't know the exact seconds, but I think it was around 47 seconds. And I looked into a few things that I found when I wanted to find out who the Prime Minister of Slovakia was since he got shot in the last 24 hours. So I woke up this morning to the news that the Prime Minister of Slovakia was shot with an assassination attempt on his life. So I looked into some recent news about him. Literally just yesterday, Politico Europe reported the chilling effect that it would have trying to get rid of NGOs in Slovakia, saying that it could be incompatible with EU standards. On May 11th, this doctor tweeted, "Great news from Slovakia. Slovakia says no to the World Health Organization, claiming that they were not interested in the pandemic treaty that everybody's been talking about." And multiple videos have surfaced of him being very critical of the war in Ukraine and the Western strategy behind it. It seems like he was a populist who was not a total puppet for the EU, UN, or Western agenda. Let me know what you think in the comment section. God bless you. Follow my page for more news. So I was doing a lot of research because it said he was like a left-leaning populist, but he seemed like he had conservative values. Like I saw he was against some of the LGBTQ stuff, so I wouldn't really call him a liberal. That's why it was the chop clip. It was like populist because I said left-leaning populist, but then I was like, what does left-leaning even mean? Maybe like economically he's left-wing, but at the same time he's he's not liberal socially. He seemed more conservative to American standards. Europe and America have like different dynamics to it. But this is what I found. Yeah, I'm just going to repeat it, and then we're going to move on to the actual like main show, which is the Aaron Rodgers stuff. Yesterday, it said he was trying to get rid of NGOs out of Slovakia. And if anybody pays attention and does some research, I think NGOs seems to be how they take over countries. In my opinion, it's like if they can't completely control your country, through NGOs, it seems to swallow up the culture and the politics. So a lot of leaders, or I wouldn't say a lot, but the ones that want to keep their country, oftentimes they try to get rid of the NGOs, the non-government organizations, because there's outside figures like the guy that must not be named because it's obviously a conspiracy theory, even though there's certain people funding a lot of countries, you know who I'm talking about, the guy that funds like worldwide. But they say it's like hate speech to say that he's doing it. There's others as well, but I've heard this in a few countries where they try to get rid of NGOs because they feel like the NGOs are influencing their policy in a sneaky way. Yeah, just yesterday, they wrote an article about that. 3 days ago, there were reports that he was not on board with the World Health Organization pandemic stuff. I see in the news, like Mitt Romney's talking about the bird flu, and it's like, oh, they're trying to do this again, or what the heck's going on? And also, he did not want to take in migrants, the EU migrant pact that they're doing. He was against that. So he also talked about during the pharmaceutical lockdown stuff. I don't know his stances then, but now he's been coming out saying like, this wasn't good for us. We were lied to. Like, people need to be held accountable for this. So you could pick your situation. Oh, also, sorry, to add to that, the Russia-Ukraine thing, he seems to have a different opinion on the Western involvement in Ukraine. So you could pick which one of your issues is most controversial. This is what I will say before I play the Aaron Rodgers clips and we keep going. America is at war. I don't like it. I'm a peace guy. I know that that's not like how the world works, so I'm not going to cry about it every day, but I hate the fact that America is funding two front wars right now. I personally, after all the research I've done, I don't think either war is for our interests, not the one in Israel, Palestine, not the one in Russia, Ukraine. Usually left-wingers think that we're fighting Putin for America and for Europe, and right-wingers seem to think we're fighting Israel for Jesus, or I don't know if their pastor told them the only way that Jesus is going to like you if you fund a war where literally thousands of women and children are being slaughtered. I guess some Christians think that Jesus wants you to support that or something. I think it's disgusting, but whatever. I understand there's different dynamics to these wars. But here's what I'm going to say before we play the clips. The world is at war. There was a terrorist attack in Russia where dozens of people were murdered, and they said it was ISIS, even though ISIS hasn't been around for 4 or 5 years. I'm not saying they completely disappeared, but it's like you never hear about ISIS, and then all of a sudden they just kill people in Russia. A leader gets assassinated. All sorts of weird stuff's going on in America with our infrastructure just exploding and all this stuff. I'm not saying it's a terrorist attack, but it's like, let's just be real. If you want to fund Ukraine against Russia, you're funding a war. There's going to be consequences all over the world. And if you want to fund Israel because you think Jesus wants you to kill a bunch of kids and women in order to, bring back the Antichrist so you can go to heaven right now, you're the one that's going to bring back the end times prophecies, whatever, or if you have an ethnic or religious connection to it that you want to fund that side of the war. All I'm saying is like, when you're funding two wars where tens or hundreds of thousands of people are dying, if you combine both, I don't know, maybe it's in the tens of thousands. It's an ugly time. Like, people get desperate. There's hundreds of billions of dollars flowing around. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, like, when the world's at peace, it's a lot easier to feel stable as a country, as a person. But if you are funding two crazy wars to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars, and, I'm sure Ukraine is getting extraordinarily desperate because they're probably losing. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I would guess that when it's all said and done, they're very desperate because they don't have as big of an army as Russia. Russia is one of the hardest countries to win a war against. It's like this, it just sucks. Like, the world feels better when the world is at peace. And as long as we're funding two wars, there's going to be ugly stuff happening. And I'm not saying that's why it happened, but you could pick your litter of all the things that guy was doing. Strange times. It's terrible. I heard that he was a good leader from people that live in Slovakia. They seem to like that guy. But just know, this is all I'm going to say, because obviously, Americans want to feel comfortable, and they're like, our border's open. I don't feel comfortable. The crime's rising. I don't feel comfortable. This is happening. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not trying to be a doomer and a gloomer, but like this is not going to be a comfortable country, because America is like front and center of the biggest funders of two different wars right now. So, if it's not going to be comfortable for Europe or people overseas, it's not going to be comfortable here either. And I don't like that. I would love to find peace, but I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think that he was shot randomly by an activist who had nothing to do with anything? Do you think it was because of his opposition to the EU? Do you think it was his opposition to the UN? Do you think it was his opposition to the Russian war? Which one of those topics that I covered do you think was the most ballsy, or the one that, maybe had somebody trying to get him? I don't know. Let me know what you think, but it's going to be a crazy year until the world negotiates peace deals in those two countries, but nobody seems like they want to do it. Speaking of crazy stuff, here's the headline story that people probably came for. Aaron Rodgers and Tucker Carlson talked about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and Aaron Rodgers is a ballsy guy. You know, he has everything in the world. He's a quarterback. People love him. He's one of the best quarterbacks in modern history. Yet he still has a soul and the spirit to want to talk about this stuff. Most don't. I give him all the props in the world. Let's take a listen.
Would you be shocked to learn that Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself?
No. I mean, how many Jeffrey Epstein type people are out there?
Well, that's right.
That's the real question.
You mean people who've been killed, or people who are using sex as a blackmail tool?
That.
Yep.
And then who's pulling the strings on that?
He says, who's pulling the strings on that? Tucker Carlson says, any guesses? Aaron Rodgers has some brass balls. What you're going to hear from Aaron Rodgers, you're not going to hear from the Republican politicians that claim to care about this. You're not going to hear it on Fox News. But you might hear it on Tucker Carlson's podcast now that he got kicked off Fox News. Here's what Aaron Rodgers thinks.
Any guesses?
Well, Ghislaine Maxwell has a lot of ties to the Mossad.
Yep.
That would make sense. I mean, Jeffrey didn't seem to get some of the appointments he was given in prominence based on merit. Somebody was putting him in the right spots.
Damn. Aaron has some brass balls. You know what I'm saying? And I want to say this as well. In this world, I think there's some people like Aaron. It's like, if you're not saying what you really think, are you even a man? You know, like everyone's like, oh, well, you know, nobody wants to say anything because, you know, he's a quarterback and he could just ride off into the sunset. But it's like, you know, life just doesn't hit the same if you're a coward, you know? Cowardly actions get people stuck in lockdowns. And, you know, when everything is faced against you, you either got to choose your morals, your conviction, God, or you choose the herd mentality of life in a multitude of situations. So regardless of what you think of what Aaron Rodgers said, I respect the fact that he's just like, that's what I think. That's what I think it was. That would make sense to me. And I'm going to say it, because if I don't say what I believe is true, then, you know, I'm just a coward or a liar. I'm sure that's what he thinks, or he's probably he seems like a very intelligent man who knows a lot of stuff, and he's not trying to act dumb. Like, you know, he never dumbs himself down. He usually just says what he thinks, and you got to respect people like that. If there were more people like that in the country would be in a better place. But let's keep listening. There's a few more clips.
But I don't think he's the only one. I think there's a problem, a weird, bizarre problem, really, that has a weird sex component to it, with some of the elites. And there's a pedophile component to it as well, which is really sick. And there's, you know, some prominent figures, you know, who are in the spotlight as of late.
I mean, I think everybody thinks that, right? What he just said, everybody thinks that. The Epstein thing was one of the most bizarre. I wouldn't even call it bizarre, but it's like you had Trump in office, right? Epstein goes to jail. They're going to talk about it in a second, so I don't want to really get into it too much, but it's like the guards were asleep and the cameras were off. And then it's like, oh, nobody cares about it. It's like, yeah, like it happened and we all know it, but like, let's move on. We got a pandemic and some vaccines to sell. And it's like, nobody's suspicious that none of these politicians care. Is anybody even campaigning on this? Like Trump, Biden, RFK, they always make these like other things to talk about. Like, look at the court case, look at the debate, look at the and it's like, what about that thing that everybody knows happened? That could probably be like a key point to like everything that's happening. It's like, no. Sorry. But everybody knows it. It's just interesting. I don't know what to, I don't know what to do about it, but it's just like everybody knows. A lot of people care. No major leader in politics will touch it with a 10-foot pole.
I would like that to be exposed. But Jeffrey Epstein had the goods on everybody. So there were a lot of people that didn't want him to be alive. And then the whole wild story around, multiple people being asleep and, him not being watched at the time is real convenient. And I just don't believe in that many coincidences.
No. He was murdered in federal detention in Manhattan.
Maybe he was, maybe not. But one thing that's interesting to me about the student protests, it's not the fact that I'm a liberal or I'm in a camping tent outside of Columbia University. I would never go to that university anyway. One, they'd never let me in off my grades. Two, I'm not into the liberal college vibe, just to put it that way. With that being said, it seems like liberals will come together on a topic and really like drive it home. And then they're not really getting results, but Biden's kind of floundering, like, because he needs their votes. And it proves that Biden's afraid of losing these kids' votes, right? When it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein thing, I have a few theories, but it's like, why is nothing done about it? In my opinion, it's because who do the truthers and Republicans like? I'm not trying to be a hater. I know people are going to cry about this, but like, who do they follow? They follow Donald Trump. Donald Trump was in office when it happens. He doesn't care. In fact, he hired Attorney General Bill Barr. And Bill Barr, if you look up, has interesting connections to Epstein's family. So it's like, if your leader doesn't care about this, you're not going to care about it. I don't agree with a lot of the things that liberal protesters do or say or think or vote for. But one thing that they seem to do better than Republicans is they organize without getting in trouble. I mean, it's hard when you're a Republican because they'll probably just try to throw you in prison or lie about you or set you up at some Trumpy like vaccine fed trap like January 6th. But in general, it's like, they're not just like, oh, what's our leader saying? They're like, no, what do we think? And we're going to do it. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's interesting. With Republicans, it's like, even during the pandemic, like, did I think that Trump won the election? Absolutely. Was I telling people not to talk about it? No. But it's like, we're in a lockdown and none of you are even like, it's like Republicans are constantly like just following a leader that's like, let's Linwood at January 6th. And it's like, guys, we're like, you can't even fly in a plane without a pharmaceutical mask. Imagine if we all came together peacefully and said no. We could have ended mandates a year early. We could have stopped vaccine plane mandates. But all the organization on the right, like, there is no like, oh, let's really get to the truth of Jeffrey Epstein. It's like, no, let's follow a guy who had Epstein in jail on his watch and let him either die or escape or whatever people think happened, and hired somebody that knew Epstein's father as attorney general. It's like, of course, nothing's ever going to change because the left doesn't care and the right doesn't organize on their own based off of their own thoughts. They're basically always getting told, what to think by the guy who sells vaccines and takes meetings with Bill Gates. So it's like, it's not going to get done. It's just interesting to me. I don't know, because I'm trying to figure out like why. And I'm not saying the left isn't brainwashed. Obviously they are on other topics, but it's like everyone knows about this, but nothing's going to change. So it's like, even this live stream, it's just a conversation. Like, there's nothing, everyone knows what Aaron Rodgers says, but nothing ever changes. But that's why I think it is. That's why I talked about it. Anyway, let's listen to more clips.
I don't think there's any question about that. And people lied about it, including the then Attorney General of the United States.
I think there's some weird correlations between and anomalies that, the Johnny Depp trial had eyes on it, crazy coverage. And the Ghislaine Maxwell trial had next to no coverage, no TV coverage, no nightly commentary about it. No.
Did you just say anomalies, Aaron Rodgers? Leave me out of this, okay? Let's stick to the elites, okay? Let's stick to Epstein and Maxwell. You start talking about anomalies, no, I'm just kidding. But I know it's a word. It means like peculiar, like out of this world, uncommon, anyway, deviation from the normal. But yeah, what he's talking about, I mean, everybody sees that. All right, let's 2 more clips and then we'll go to the Pat Tillman one.
Traffic to nobody. I mean, they literally she is indicted for trafficking kids, and nobody who she was trafficking kids to got indicted.
Or named.
Yeah. And all the files that are out there still haven't been released. We have one testimony from one victim. That's all we have. When that came out, it was just literally like one victim. And there's hundreds of just in that little who flew on the Lolita Express. And there's a lot of super prominent names who are on the flight logs.
So let's just look at the 2 major candidates, and then we'll look at the 3 major candidates, even though RFK doesn't really matter. For the election, I like him, but like he's not really going to win. So I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, Biden is Joe Biden. Do I even have to tell you about Joe Biden? Joe Biden is nobody watching my show is like, yeah, Joe Biden's awesome. So I don't even need to like explain why he's not going to do anything about the Jeffrey Epstein thing, because everybody already knows why Biden wouldn't do anything about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Biden is as politician-y of a politician as you'll ever get. He's as establishment as it comes. He doesn't give a crap, right? He's not a populist. He's not an outsider. He's never going to do anything. Let's get to the Republican side. Donald Trump has pictures and videos of him dancing with Jeffrey Epstein, hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell. He was in office when Jeffrey Epstein, whatever happened to him in 2018, he hired an attorney general who had history with Epstein's family, Bill Barr. Look into that. It's fascinating stuff. Like, I know Republicans like think he's going to do something because they like heard someone tell them on a message board, but he's not going to do anything. He's what he is. And then you have this outsider, right? RFK, this outsider who, if you look it up, RFK flew on his plane multiple times. It's like, I'm not saying RFK did anything, but these are our 3 major candidates, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, and RFK. So it's like, it's like, in my opinion, it's theater for the masses, where it's like, you might get a little something like, Biden will, I don't know what he's doing or who he's pretending like I don't know his target audience. I guess people that hate Donald Trump and are really easily tricked by like basic, emotional things. Trump's got the Republicans on lock. And then you have RFK, who's like this outsider who's telling the truth about vaccines. And, he knows a lot of stuff about Monsanto. And I really like RFK, but it's like, is RFK going to get to the bottom of this topic? Probably not if he flew on the plane a few times. I'm not sure if he really wants to get to the bottom of the topic. I don't know. I'm not going to, push false accusations, because when you're rich and powerful, sometimes you just end up on people's jets, and you just network and you don't know what you're getting yourself into. But it's like, on this topic, it's a total wash. And mysteriously, Biden, RFK, and Trump nearly have identical foreign policy on one country, but on other countries, they're totally separate and have their own unique thoughts. But on one, RFK Jr. sounds like Nancy Pelosi. Donald Trump sounds like, Chuck Schumer. Well, maybe even Chuck Schumer has made other statements, but I don't know. Democrats play a different game, because I feel like Democrats know their audience and Republicans know their audience. So they're both like saying different things, but they say different things and then they do the same thing. But anyway, I'm going to play this last clip, and I hope I don't get in trouble, because I'm going to read a Richard Nixon quote. They talk about it, but they're both like, I'm not going to say afraid to say it, but I think Aaron's trying to be respectful and he doesn't want to say the word F-A-G-G-Y. I'm going to say it because it's what Richard Nixon says. So for the YouTube censors and the Facebook censors, listen, I didn't say it. Richard Nixon said it, but like, who am I to stop a historical quote from free flowing? So I don't know what the policies are on these stupid websites, but it's a really funny quote in my opinion. So I'm going to read it. Here's the last clip.
But getting into conspiracy stuff, then about secret society stuff and like stuff like the Bohemian Grove.
Yes. And
what Nixon said about the Bohemian Grove. And
what did he say?
You have to go look at his quote. His quote is not exactly, there's some.
I think he said something like that they're all gay, right?
Yeah,
something like
that's
that.
That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
And the secrecy around that, and that's not the only secret society.
All right, so here's the quote. I just got it from AZ Quotes. I'll read it. I'll take it. Richard Nixon said, "But it's not just the ratty part of town. The upper class in San Francisco is that way. The Bohemian Grove, which I attend from time to time, is the most faggy goddamn thing you could ever imagine with that San Francisco crowd. I can't shake hands from anybody from San Francisco." That's what Richard Nixon said. It's funny because I thought I was the only one. When I walk in San Francisco, I'm like, I'm not shaking any of these degenerates' hands. Someone comes up to me, waves, I look away like Medusa. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I don't know. Richard Nixon said that. I'll just play it around, like I thought it was just me. I'm glad a sitting president agrees with me, because someone's like, "Hey, how you doing, partner?" I was like, not in this city. Maybe maybe if we were somewhere else, but in this city, I'm gonna wash my hands 5 times a day and try to avoid even eye contact. But I'm just kidding. Speaking of discuss, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bring this up, but like I kept seeing and please don't look for this video. It ruined my week, to be honest. I was like, why is this happening to me? But everyone's on Twitter talking about like, oh, did you see the guy at the gas station pump guy? And I'm like, no, I successfully didn't see it for 3 days. And I'm not, just to be clear, everyone's different. I don't like videos like that. I don't like war videos. Like I don't look at the footage from Russia or Ukraine. I can't even find it, to be honest. Like my page is constantly flooded with like Palestine, people dying. And I know it's sad and I know some people want to see it. I just don't. Like I get what's going on. It sickens me. I just hate looking at that stuff. And I was just scrolling on X and like some guy stuck a gas pump in a hole in his body and like it's just like, why is this in my Twitter feed? Like I heard people talking about it and I was like, please do not put this in my feed. I don't want to see this. And I was forced to see it like against my will. And it's ruined my week, to be honest. It's why I didn't work yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. It has nothing to do with that. I did work yesterday. I just didn't make a video. Yeah, I'm not going to post it. Trust me. Yeah, so Michelle said I accidentally seen it today. Isn't that the internet? You just accidentally see everything. Like 90% of what I've seen on the internet is against my will. But anyway, yeah, it was wild. Let's get back to the show. I'm disturbed. But yeah, Richard Nixon, he's got some pretty funny quotes. Like I guess they recorded him because they wanted to kick him out of office or whatever, and they caught some bangers out of him. He's got quite a few interesting quotes that are hilarious. I mean, totally offensive and, rude or whatever. So I don't know if you guys know Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was an NFL player for the Arizona Cardinals, and he decided to serve America and fight in Afghanistan for America after 9/11. He's considered one of the greatest heroes in modern sports history because he turned down a multi-million-dollar contract to serve in the U.S. military. It's an amazing thing. I always knew who Pat Tillman was. I always liked Pat Tillman. Even me, somebody that clearly does this and pays attention and was always into like theories and whatever, I had never known this about Pat Tillman until Aaron Rodgers said it. So Aaron Rodgers says that Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire and they covered up his journal and then used his death for war propaganda. It's disgusting. I mean, if this is true, which Aaron doesn't strike me as a liar, but I like to be accurate when I talk about stuff. But it's really sad, but it's not surprising because this is why I do what I do now. This was not my dream. Just to be honest, my dream was never to like be a news guy. But when your country, it's like, and I don't want to compare myself to a soldier because I'm way less than that. I'm just saying, like, at a certain point, he was like, I want to serve my country. And what I'm doing is way less than that. It's not a comparison to say like I'm as brave or whatever, but it is like I wanted to do something for my country because everything was so disgusting that I didn't want to just do like a normal job and sit on the sidelines and watch the media constantly lie to people. So I'm not shocked that this happened, but to be honest, I didn't even hear about it until yesterday. I'm sure a lot of people that follow me have heard this, but let's listen to Aaron Rodgers because this was news to me, and I'm not surprised.
My grandfather, though, I didn't get to know him that well, but I do know that he always questioned and believed that Roosevelt knew about the Japanese coming, and that always stuck with him because he was super patriotic. And another one of my heroes, Pat Tillman, who left the NFL to join the Army.
All right, so here's where I have to chop it into clips or they'll copyright strike me. Here's where he lays down some stuff about Pat Tillman. I guess he read a book about him and did a lot of research. Let's listen.
His death is very suspicious as well, in that not the fact we know that he was killed by friendly fire, but the way they handled his body afterwards, his uniform, confiscating his last journal, using his death to prop up the war propaganda. There's been a lot of great people in history who are super patriotic, who've questioned their government, and I think that's what I've done since.
I love what he says there. He says there's a lot of great people in history a lot of patriotic people in history that have questioned our government. What's interesting is I don't know if Aaron's seen this interview or he just said that himself. Something tells me he has seen this interview, but there's an old interview from like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 1990s, after the Million Man March. I guess Louis Farrakhan orchestrated or organized is probably a better word, a 1 million man march, 1 million black people in America. And because he did that, CNN sat down with him. Mike Wallace from CNN did like a 30-minute interview with Louis Farrakhan after the 1 million man march. It's one of the most fascinating interviews I've ever seen because they talk about him meeting with Gaddafi, who's now dead. They talk about him meeting with Saddam Hussein, who's now dead. And, you know, they talked about him criticizing America. And he said almost that exact quote. That's why I feel like Aaron might have heard it. He goes, you know, in that interview, Farrakhan says, you know, some of the greatest American patriots have questioned the United States. Almost a direct quote of what Aaron, he could have just said the same thing. Cause I think regardless of who says it, you know, that is a true statement, but, he's a well-researched guy, but it's one of the most fascinating interviews that I've ever watched. I love historical interviews that, like, you know, you can't beat that because it's like, it's really there. I think it was 60 Minutes or CNN, but, you know, Mike Wallace grilled him for like 30 minutes, asked him questions about, you know, what he said about white people and anti-Semitism and, you know, why he's traveling the world and if he'll register as a foreign agent because he meets with all these foreign leaders. It's worth watching, in my opinion, regardless of what you think of him or Mike Wallace. Like, you know, to learn things, I don't see why it's a problem. But anytime I say stuff like that, people are like, you're in the Nation of Islam. It's like, ho, ho, ho. No, I'm not. Like, if I watch an interview of Joe Biden, am I a Democrat? If I watch an interview of like the Saudi Arabian president, am I Saudi Arabian? Like, the fact that people are this stupid is just like crazy to me. But anytime I post clips like that, they're like, it's like, I can't post a clip. I can't watch something without joining their religion. It's freaking ridiculous. Anyway, let's play another clip.
I've done since I was a kid.
And pardon my ignorance, I didn't even know that about Tillman's journal. So that was confiscated by the
his uniform was burned and his journal was confiscated. That's in John Krakauer's book, Where Men Win Glory, which is a fantastic book. And one of my best friends in the entire world, AJ Hawk. AJ grew his hair out, him and his buddy, in 2004, as an ode to Pat.
Isn't that messed up if it's true? Pat Tillman left a multi-million-dollar contract to serve America, seemed a little suspicious of what's going on. He dies in friendly fire. They burn his uniform and confiscate his journal. Is that true? I've never heard this before Aaron Rodgers says it. And to be fair, I'm not doubting Aaron Rodgers. I wouldn't play it if I was, but I'm not going to confirm anything unless I've heard it myself. But I'm going to look into it. Not going to lie.
Because Pat always had long hair, played for the Cardinals, left a multi-million-dollar contract to go, fight Al Qaeda and Taliban. Gets over there and is like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm guarding these poppy fields. This is not what I signed up for. I miss my wife. I miss being in the States. This is not what I thought we were going to be doing over here.
All right, 2 more clips, and then I'll read some comments because that's all the clips I got.
And then some really negligent maneuvers happened and split up his unit, and he ended up being with one of the members of the Afghani army who was their kind of guide. And, you know, a guy saw the guy in some dim lighting on the ridge who was with Pat. They fired on him. Obviously, Pat and the Afghani thought that they were getting fired on by Taliban, so fired back, and ended up Pat got killed.
All right, last clip.
His brother was not told right away that it was friendly fire. It's all in the book. It's a fascinating book. It's one of the only books I've ever cried reading, just because it's so. John's an incredible writer. He wrote Into Thin Air. He wrote Into the Wild. He wrote Under the Banner of Heaven.
I read those 3. I never read the Tillman book.
Yeah, the Tillman book is incredible. But I don't know why I'm bringing this up. Just that there's so many people that really love this country that have gotten disenfranchised. I think that's part of it.
Who've been betrayed by their leaders.
Yeah.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, Marcus. Someone said, how does Aaron Rodgers know all this? Well, he just said he read a book. I'm not trying to be a hater because I appreciate anybody that like watches my show, but I noticed the guy who asked like how Aaron Rodgers knows this, and he's always like playing like devil's advocate, and he's always like questioning everything I'm saying. It's just like hilarious where it's like it says in the interview, if you just listen, it'll say where he knows it from. Like, it's just interesting that anybody that ever never mind. Yeah, I've never heard it either. So Aaron's a super, super smart guy. Let me know what you guys think about someone said, dude, this is old news. I know it's old news, but a lot of people don't know about it. And Aaron Rodgers just said it. If it's so old to you and above your, go listen to the newest thing you could find that just dropped 1 second ago. But if you want to watch the video, I'll be here. Yeah, a lot of people have heard this, I'm sure. It's, Pat Tillman died a long time ago, but Aaron Rodgers is one of the most famous people in NFL history, and he's on one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and he just said it. So that's why it's being covered now, if you don't mind. I don't know. Someone said those types drive me nuts. It's all good. I posted a headline. I just want to read the headline real quick because I posted it on Facebook, and it's just like, some people are just so interesting. Let's put it that way. Here's the headline. It's from Haaretz. If you guys don't know what Haaretz is, it's an Israeli media company. Like, it's in Israel. They said live updates. Defense official says settlers beat Palestinian truck driver because they thought he was delivering aid. I posted it and I said, that's a real headline. The reason I posted it is because it reads like a Babylon Bee. Like, you would think a headline would be like, they said they beat a Palestinian truck driver because they thought he had weapons, or they beat a Palestinian truck driver because they thought he was Hamas or whatever. But no, they beat the Palestinian truck driver because they thought he was delivering aid. But he wasn't, I guess, and like, I just posted the headline, and then someone's like, your anti-Semitism's really showing. And it's like, it's an Israeli media company. Like, I didn't write this article. Israel's media organization wrote it. Like, you can't even post a Israeli media headline without being called anti-Semitic. It's like, that topic's just fascinating because it turns Republicans into blue-haired liberals, and they use that word as recklessly as like a liberal uses the word racist, or it's like, okay, I don't know. It's very bizarre. Someone said NFL is disgusting and has become an unwatchable product. The propaganda is like, I watch a lot of sports. The propaganda in the NFL is just so blatant and in your face. It is disturbing. It's just like so weird. It sucks because football is cool, and I'm an athlete. I love sports. Like, I know there's some people that are like, it's the Roman circus. Yeah, but it's also cool. Like, being a good fighter is cool. Being a good boxer is cool. Being a good athlete is cool. It's fun to watch. It's fun. Like, the world, isn't always great. It's fun to, like, for me, just like certain people do other stuff. I like to watch sports. I get it. I don't tell people, oh, you just watch. But it's also good to know what's going on in the world. And, this is my big complaint with sports. I have a few, but the pharmaceutical commercials it's too much, and nobody cares. Like, Trump doesn't care. Biden doesn't care. Trump gave money to big pharma. Biden gives money to big pharma. It's disgusting. It's disturbing. It's insane. And there's no off ramp because none of the two major candidates care. And none of the people care. Like, now people, I've heard crazy stories about like Ozempic. This is the new drug they're pushing. Apparently it was a drug for something else, and they realized that you lose a lot of weight when you do it. So it's like the new trendy, like, normie drug where they're like, I'm taking Ozempic and whatever. I'm not a big pharmaceutical fan, if you could tell. So it all went over my head. But I know somebody that they just posted about Ozempic, and someone was like, turn off Fox News, you racist. And it's like, what does Fox News have to do with Ozempic? It's like, some people are so brainwashed. They think like opposition to a pharmaceutical product is Republican, because Republicans tend to see through that more now. But I feel like 15 years ago, liberals used to see through it. It's really weird. Like, everything's really weird now, but it's like, they're always pushing pharmaceutical products, and this country's so addicted that no one seems to notice or care. But myself, who I'll take an antibiotic if I'm really sick. Like, once in a while, I'll take like ibuprofen if I really have to. Besides that, I try to avoid pharmaceuticals like the plague. Like, if I want to lose weight, I work out and stop eating. If I want to feel better, I'll try something natural. I like, coffee. There's other things I like that are natural. There's something that I don't do often, but it's like from a coffee bean plant. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I do other stupid stuff. I'm just saying it's just like, it's just crazy how in sports, everything is pharmaceutical. Like, I can't even watch TV for that reason. Even the UFC now, they're pumping all the commercials that are pharmaceutical because they have a deal with ESPN, and that's what ESPN is doing. And it's like, I don't think America realizes how unnatural this is. And it really bothers me, obviously, like, the liberal propaganda bothers me too, but the pharmaceutical propaganda is disgusting. And I feel like I wish Americans cared a little more. Yeah, it's in the UFC too, because they do their undercards with ESPN. So they're probably just doing whatever ESPN says to do, or ESPN's calling the shots. But there's interesting things with Dana too. Like obviously, like he did the Bud Light deal. I think Dana is the best sports CEO in modern history. I like him as a sports CEO, but he's not infallible. And as a big UFC fan, Dana has some of the worst press. Like his press conferences are entertaining, but he's weeded out all the MMA journalists who ask good questions. So it's hard to even watch his press. I love Dana White. I love watching his press conferences. It's hard for me to even watch his press conferences now because he's basically kicked out and controlled all the journalists. So the journalists are like, it's like literally like North Korea. Like when Dana talks, they're like, Dana, I heard you're having Power Slap on Friday and UFC on Saturday. Wow. And it's like, what real journalist would care about Power Slap? Like that's Dana White's endeavor. It's like he's planting these journalists to give him like North Korea questions. It's kind of weird, like as a fan of Dana and the UFC, it's like, like I understand not wanting some journalists and I understand not wanting some questions, but like if your press conferences seem like North Korea, it's a little weird. I would want a few people to like ask me tough questions because like even in the comments when someone says something, I like to go off of something like. Anyway, someone said kind of like what CCP taught the North Koreans to do. You think they're working with the CCP? Maybe. Someone said, you've snapped at me before, F off. I don't even know who you are, but I mean, you could also leave. It's my channel, but I don't know. I don't really hate watch people, so I can't really relate. Like if I don't like something, I don't watch it. Some people are like, you need to leave. It's like, or you could click the X button and watch like Teletubbies or something. I don't care. Someone said, did you know pharma ads are illegal in all of 2 countries? So I think you can't get ads in other countries for pharmaceuticals that you need a doctor for. I think that's what it is. And it's America and New Zealand. So it's not all pharmaceuticals, but most of the pharmaceuticals you see on TV, what do they say? Ask a doctor, ask a doctor, ask a doctor, ask a doctor. Because there's a whole scam in America. Like I'm not 100% educated on it, but it's like when you buy insurance, the insurance are paying for it, that you ask the doctor gets kickbacks. It's like this whole cycle. So in other countries, there's not that much money in some pharmaceuticals like vaccines. There's a lot of money in America because of COVID, because of the lockdown, because of the mandates, and also because of the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And they just shove them in your kid before your kid. They're like, let's chop off part of your kid's dick and shove 15 vaccines in them. And like parents are like, let's go to war with Ukraine and Israel. It's like, no one in America thinks anymore, like it's like, I'm not telling people what to do, but like, you think it's normal to chop a piece of your kid's dick off and then shove 15 vaccines in your kid that probably wouldn't be allowed to happen if there wasn't a liability shield protecting them from lawsuits. And then you can't even say that any injuries are happening or they'll cancel you off social media. Does anybody think in this country anymore? Or it's like your kid's like a cattle cash cow where it's like your kid can't speak or think or talk, or he just came into this world. And they shove as many pharmaceutical products as they can and then protect themselves from liabilities and chop part of his dick off. And parents are like, let's go home so we can watch American Idol in the Trump rally or Rachel Maddow. Oh, it's like, hello. Like you think a country is going to be blessed that's doing this to their children? This country is insane. But when it comes to the pharmaceutical stuff on television, you get so many pharmaceutical commercials because they can promote not just any pharmaceuticals, but they can promote pharmaceuticals that you need a doctor to attain, like ones that you can't get over the counter. In every country except for 2, that's illegal, America and New Zealand. Anybody that comes to America from another country, they're like, these people are insane. The food quantities are astronomical. The quality of food is like toxic. The pharmaceutical commercials are disgusting. Like only Americans don't realize that this is not normal. And the reason is there's so many other things that people are thinking about. It's like black, white, red, blue, Trump, Biden, RFK, Trump DeSantis. Like there's always like a little stupid puppet battle that people care about, and they never hone in. That's like the Epstein thing. It's like there's never going to be anything on Epstein because Biden certainly doesn't care. Donald Trump doesn't care. He was there when Epstein did what he did and nothing happened. Then Trump ran around selling vaccines like Bill Gates on steroids, and RFK was on his jet once or twice. So it's all like a puppet. It's like a theater. You know what I'm saying? It's like theater for the masses. That's where liberals are interesting to me, because they're wrong about almost everything that they think. Like, I think liberals are wrong about 90 to 95% of everything, and their thought process doesn't work. They failed the major cities. Like, they're not thinking clearly. But what does interest me is that they're such rebel rousers that they don't listen to Joe Biden, and they don't even listen to like AOC that much. Like, what they do is they pick a topic and they get really pissed off about it, and they hone in on a topic that isn't force-fed to them by mass media. And then when they're successful, it's like they try to close down entire applications just to stop them from thinking that way. So it's like, they've done that to the right on certain topics as well, like COVID, et cetera. But it seems like the left is better at organizing because they don't have a leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, the left they don't think Joe Biden's their leader. They don't even like AOC anymore. They think AOC is a sellout. Like, the far left kids, they hate everybody. They think everybody's a puppet. They hate Trump. They hate Biden. The right, they love Trump too much. They think Trump is going to do it. So they're always like, look at all those people at a rally. There's no rally in Wildwood, New Jersey for pharmaceutical corruption. There's no rally to hold people accountable for lockdowns. There's no rally, to get to the bottom of Epstein. There's a rally for Donald Trump, the father of the vaccine, who took a meeting with Bill Gates, passed an executive order that matched what he said in the meeting, has pictures and videos with Maxwell. I'm not saying it's anything, but it's like, he does, like, when has Trump talked about getting to the bottom of the Epstein thing? Never, because he doesn't care. Neither does RFK or Biden. Like, why would they care? So I'm not saying the left is right, but it's like the left knows that they have no one. I mean, of course, like the older boomers who watch Rachel Maddow and the delusional normies, yeah, maybe they think Joe Biden's good, but most people don't vote for Joe Biden because they like him. They're not like Rob Reiner and these like elitists. They just don't like Trump, or that's their like party of choice because they want abortions or whatever, and social issues. But the right is stagnant. It's the perfect deception, in my opinion. Robert said, in this era of technology, there are no coincidences, there are no excuses. The separation of time between conspiracies and facts no longer exists. Americans, however, are having a hard time dealing with that reality still. Thank you for the super chat, Robert. I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's confusing because there's so much propaganda. It's like, it's not just left versus right. It's not just China. There's like 100 different things that are trying to scramble people. So it's like telling a liberal they're wrong. They're like, no, I'm not, because look at the right. You can't tell the right they're wrong because they're like, no, look at the left. And it's like, they don't realize that it's more complicated than that. So it's genius stuff, but it's like, honestly, it reminds me of like if you have like a bunch of cattle and you throw like 1,000 drugs into the cattle, and the cattle's just like fat and crazy and they're all acting like insane. It's like, why are the cattle acting so insane? It's like, well, we just took 100 different drugs and threw them into the pen, and now they're all going ape shit. Like, that's America. We've been, not just the drugs, but like the propaganda. It's like they're giving so much that people don't know what they're doing. That's why here I try to unravel it. Like, yeah, I could tell you what to, like, who do I vote for? I don't care. Vote for who you're inspired to vote for. If it's Trump, vote for Trump. If that's strategic to you, then go do it. If you want to vote Republican locally, do it. If you want to vote for RFK, sure. I'm not, but it's like I'm just trying to unravel the propaganda, because it doesn't, all this voting and worshiping a politician, none of it matters until people unscramble their brains. Because once you unscramble it and you're thinking clearly and calmly, you're like, oh, this doesn't make sense. That's the real solution, in my opinion. Someone said left projects uni ideas, Qatar funded despite Dems. Yeah, I mean, Al Jazeera is a thing. There's definitely Qatar involvement, but I don't think that America, the regime and the uniparty, they don't want the Qatar mindset to succeed. I don't think, like, if they did, they'd be like, yeah, go on TikTok, get the Qatar/Palestine perspective. But the American regime is pro-Israel. Trump, Biden, RFK, all of them. They're not just pro-Israel. They're pro-funding Israel. They're pro-passing anti-Semitism hate speech laws. They're essentially rendering the American Constitution irrelevant for a foreign country. So I'm not denying that Qatar pushes one-sided, a narrative around that topic, but that's not the one that the American regime wants to thrive anyway. So that's why they kicked it out of Israel. And I wouldn't be shocked if, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm sure they've labeled it on American media, like Russian funded, Qatar funded. They've already done that to the foreign stuff. Someone said, comprehend all of you, Obama's third term. Here's what I think. I mean, I'm sorry if this bothers you, but like Obama's a puppet. Like it to me, that's like Fox News, like boomer podcast cope. You know, it's like they just think Obama runs everything. Like to me, that's like as stupid as thinking like, you know, like AOC's really running the show. It's like she's a puppet. She's like an actor with goofy horse teeth. You know, she's anyway. Like Obama, like to think Obama's running it, like that's what all the boomer Republican podcasts are telling everybody. Like it's really Obama. Yeah, Obama has power. He's not completely powerless. He definitely has some involvement, like the same way Hillary Clinton is high up in the Democratic Party. But like if you think Obama's running it, like to me, it's like you're so far away from reality. It's just like it's just a simplistic way of looking at it. But whatever. Yeah, Obama, he didn't even run his own presidency, let alone run Biden's presidency. There's way higher levels above Obama. But this is what Republicans are fed constantly. They're fed like really low level analysis. That's why, you know, without being upset about it or angry, most Republican politicians and most Republican media, I'm at the point now where I just look at them like Bolshevik controlled opposition, because it's like they tell you the problem, right? The border's open. The wars, our money, our economy, like they'll shout the problems, right? Our economy sucks, the border's open, and we're funding too many wars. But they're most of the reason that the economy sucks. They're funding one of the two wars. They're actually funding both of the two wars. They're just pretending to stand against one, and they're supporting the other one publicly. So it's like they'll point out the problem. They won't admit that they are a part of the problem, that they're funding the problem, and they're working with the people who are doing the problem. They don't give you the real solution. And then anytime a conservative comes around who knows what they're doing, they smear that person. So you never figure out that there's more to the story. So it's like, you know, to me, that's what saying Obama's running the show is. I'm not saying he has zero influence, but Obama's so far down that totem pole that that's like most Republican media is just Bolshevik controlled opposition. Here's the problem. Here's the fake solution. Obama. And then it's like anytime someone comes around that actually gets further than that, then we're just going to make them look crazy. So you never like them. And we're going to smear them and say that they're angry and mean and hateful. And it's like, you know, so you never think that way. It's whatever though. Someone said Supreme Court ruled on 6 ways from Sunday recently, or I got to look into it. Someone said Anomaly thinks with all his knowledge that a transgender in office is okay. What? I don't even, dude, like, you think I like Rachel Levine? I appreciate the comment. Like, you think you're talking to me like I'm a Rachel Levine fan or something. He read my comment, but left out the Rachel Levine part. Dude, where does anybody watching my channel ever think that I like Rachel Levine? Yeah, it's like I turn my camera and I have a giant Rachel Levine poster and I'm like, oh, you found out that that's my favorite politician. Oh! It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I think it's ridiculous that that person is like running anything in this government, let alone a higher level position. Like never once have I ever said that I'm like a huge advocate for Rachel Levine in God knows what job she's doing. But it's funny that you think that I like that for whatever reason. Relax, my guy. Enjoy the show. Relax, my dude. And if you're not enjoying it, watch a show that you enjoy. I don't care what it is. It's just like, someone said, you people like to reinvent terms. It's funny because like the same two people come here and it doesn't matter what we're talking about. They just like freak out and get mad. Like you'll be like, yo, the sky's kind of gray today. They're like, oh, gray. Oh my gosh. They're like, geez, so anti-tree conspiracy theorist over here that's being so hateful. And you're like, why are you doing this? I don't like it. It's fun. It's funny for me, but like, I'm not mad at you. I'm just like confused at what you're doing or why. Like, why? Why? If it's for entertainment purposes, we appreciate you. If you're actually upset, I'm not even sure why. Like, there's no reason to be. But someone said, I'm offended by the term boomer. Okay, boomer. Sorry about that, boomer. My bad, boomer. I'll try better, boomer. Okay, boomer. I hear you, boomer. Loud and clear. Boomer to boomer. Out. Yeah. Sorry, that's an easy one. People are like, how are you offended by the term boomer? It's like, I'm offended by the term millennial. Oh, okay. Let me delete all my memes then. It's like, okay. Yeah. Someone said, I'm a boomer and I love the term. Dude, you're typing like a boomer too. I love it. He said, I'm a boomer, all caps, BOOMER, all caps like a boomer. And I love the term capitalized too. I respect a proud boomer like that. We appreciate you, here listening, not acting crazy, still typing caps to make sure he's fitting the stereotype, but spelling everything properly, having a good time. Listen, boomers are awesome. It's just every age bracket, not to say everybody, because it's not everybody's the same, but every age bracket has like a pro and a con. With the boomers, the pro, they're boomering out. They're having a good time. You know what I'm saying? They're grilling. They're, Americana. They're having kids, crushing. We love the boomers. There's a lot of great things about boomers. There's a lot of great boomers in my life. The con to boomer politically that I've been kind of dunking on recently, I sort of apologize, not really, but the con to like the political boomer, not all, not you, maybe you, I don't know. They're just too naive. Like, I don't know what it is, but they're constantly getting tricked by such easy stuff, like high trust. Maybe you grew up at a time where like everybody trusted each other. Now you can't even have a Tesla thing without somebody cutting off the pump to steal the copper. Like, the country is not trustworthy. The politicians are not trustworthy. Trump is not even trustworthy. Vote for him, but don't trust him. It's like, but boomers are so high trust. They're like, Reagan was amazing. It's like the 5 worst things that Reagan did destroyed the country for the next 60 years. I'm sure he was a nice guy, but it's like he didn't get the job done. Trump didn't get the job done. Bush didn't get the job done. He got the job done, not for you though. And now we're in this failed country where our politicians, including the Republicans, are just sucking our money away, printing money, giving it to multiple foreign countries, funding wars as our country's falling apart. And it's like, now's the time to realize what's going on. But sometimes, not all, but some boomers are just like, Sean Hannity and Trump. It's like, oh, this is what got us into this mess. The opposition's been fake for 50 years and you don't want to believe it. There's like, Trump is like the right-wing boomer Obama. Obama tricked a lot of, people of color, as they call them on the left. I just call them my diverse minority friends with a Z at the end. So, I'm really trendy, swag, whatever. I'm just kidding. But, Obama tricked a lot of liberals and Trump tricked a lot of Republicans. But that's the annoying part about boomers. They're like, we believe in the patriot Mark Levin. It's like, I get it. But whatever, Someone said, my boy anomaly keeping it 100. That's the only speed I know. It's either 100. I'm either all in or I'm out. I don't have another switch. I'd probably I don't know what else to do. Someone said the boomers are angry now. No, they're not angry. Some of them are like, Sean Hannity and Mark Levin are great, but then others are like, that's pretty funny. Someone said last night a boomer saved my life. They're real patriots in real life. They'll swim into the ocean to save you. Boomers are awesome. They just get tricked by media a lot, but it's okay. The guy that always complains said, you people living in your parents' basement, you think you know everything. I'm not in my parents' basement. I'm self-made, but I left my parents' basement when I was like 20 years old. I moved to a city and I never once asked them for money. But at the same time, there are a lot of people that are in their 20s in their mom's basement that think they're revolutionaries and they don't even know how taxes or income or basic health insurance works. So there definitely are people like that. So a lot of people like that where they're not living in reality, but they know that boomer, it's like this. It's this weird thing where like the 20-year-olds that live in their mom's basement, they know that Republican boomers are wrong and Republican boomers are wrong. And Republican boomers know that the kids in the basement are losers and they are losers and they're also wrong. It's just hard to talk to both sides and be like, you're both kind of wrong about certain things. But it's like, I can't be wrong because that loser in the basement's wrong. And then they're like, I can't be wrong because my Republican dad's watching Sean Hannity or, it's like, and then it becomes this like, I don't know. It's just like, ugh. Can we get over this? It's fascinating. Someone said Obama is like rap, fake and gay. Okay. I rap, but okay. Anyway, Someone said Fauci is a boomer remover god. I don't know. Oh my gosh, it's kind of messed up. It's a messed up statement. Someone said Anomaly never says Gen X. Well, I'm a millennial. Millennials are dumb, and I don't even know all the generations, so I just stick with boomer and the younger one because it's just easier to talk about, Gen Z or whatever. I don't talk about myself either. I'm a self-loving millennial. I'm on the front lines for my people. Yeah. Anyway, Robert Blatchley with a $20 super chat. He said, one thing I'm tired of, using the Jewish people as a scapegoat for what's happening. What if we are seeing is the reemergence of Canaanites, which existed before the Israelites and converted to Judaism, Christianity? I mean, interesting theory. Here's what I'll say. I do like anytime something happens in the world, it creates not just a stereotype, but it creates like an image. Like, for example, 10 years ago, like, what did you think about Ukraine, right? I didn't think about Ukraine. Probably if you would have told me 10 years ago, like, what do you think about Ukraine? I think of like a hot Ukrainian chick I saw one time, and I was like, oh, they got hot chicks over there. But that's everywhere in the world. There's some uglies everywhere and there's some hotties everywhere. But in general, it's like, I didn't think about Ukraine. Now, if you came to me on the street and are like, what do you think about Ukraine? I think of Zelensky. I think of Zelensky taking my money. I think of the war. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't hold it against Ukrainians, but that's just what I think about now when you say the word. When it comes to Israel or Jewish, you have people that are thinking about a lot of things. And it's no fault of random people that are doing nothing, but some people think of the Israel-Palestine war. They've recently switched the death numbers, but they're still astronomically high. I think thousands of women and children have been killed. I mean, it's a lot of women and a lot of children. People think of that. People think of the anti-Semitism hate speech laws. People like myself, I don't blame my random friends who did nothing, but I think about all the times the media called me anti-Semitic because I said that Zionists control the Republican Party, which is true. I think of, people who own, it's not everybody, but it's like people who own Pornhub and OnlyFans. And I guess the guy who owns OnlyFans is also donating over $10 million to AIPAC. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fascinating. But I don't think of only that. I also think of my friends. I also think of like, good times I've had with Jewish friends, etc. But all I'm basically saying is like, why are people being scapegoated? It's like when you have a country that represents the Jewish people like Israel, and they say, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Like, you can disagree with Ukraine and you don't hate Ukrainians, but if you disagree with Israel, you hate these people. Like, that's what the media is doing. That's what U.S. politicians are doing. That's what Israel's doing. So now they've grouped people with a country, and that country does a lot of stuff. So it's like, people, it's like the politicians are basically scapegoating people for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why they're doing it, but they're basically like, you have to think this way. And then it's like, whatever we do is going to represent this, but you can't say it. And it's like, I think that if the war would stop and things were more fair in the country, then people wouldn't feel that way. But I feel like the politicians are purposely scapegoating them and purposely using them the same way like liberal politicians use other ethnic groups in my perspective. But, I'm not saying it's right, but it's like it's being purposely done, whether people know it or not, at the high levels. Someone said 100 times university funds in 12 years over AIPAC grassroots strategy. I've talked about this a lot because I'm not like someone's saying with the Marxism stuff here. Here's what I think's going on. And I'm not saying like, I don't think I have a dog in this race. Like, don't get it twisted. I'm not a Marxist. And I consider myself conservative. I guess you could call me a libertarian. I don't really care. I'm an American citizen. I think I'm honest. There's things I pull from both like conservatism and libertarianism. I'm not completely one because I think the Republican Party is a socialist party, and I think libertarians are too idealistic. So I'm like somewhere in between. With that being said, I'm not agreeing with the Marxists on college campus. I'm just saying it's created this interesting American proxy discussion between Marxists versus Zionists. And I've explained it before, but I think I'm one of the only ones talking about it. So I'll repeat it for that reason. I see what's going on the college university is a lot of the higher level Zionist donors Sometimes they'll be left wing, sometimes they'll be right wing, sometimes they'll fund Marxism, sometimes they'll fund conservatism. But when they're funding it, they're trying to get their ideology out of it. So, for example, most Republican media is Zionist media. The second that conservative media says I'm conservative more than I'm Zionist, they get in trouble. And then in the left side, it's like you have all these universities that are Marxist, but they were getting funded by people who are pro-Zionist. And once the Zionist donors realize that the Marxist kids aren't seeing them as a victim, they see them as a different race, like, or the same race as white, like white supremacy, whatever. And they're now the oppressor. And now the Zionist donors are upset. So it's like, I'm not a Marxist. I don't agree with Marxism. I think it's insane. I think it's fake. I've read the Communist Manifesto. I'm not impressed. I think Karl Marx was sneaky and wanted total control of banking, media, and society. And I don't think it works. But this is what I'm saying. To me, the two sides that are arguing at college campuses now, to me, it's like Mitt Romney versus Obama. It's like, I don't think either of them are on my side, and I'm not going to pretend to. Like, a lot of Marxists will think they must be right because the other side's wrong. And a lot of people on the right think, oh, well, the Marxists on college campus are wrong, so the other side might be right. To me, that's like saying, well, Mitt Romney has to be the real deal because, Obama is a liberal. It's like, Mitt Romney sucks. And that's just how I see the college situation, where it's like, if you fund Marxists for 20 years, a lot of the people who funded it are the ones that are mad now. They're like, I didn't know they thought this way. It's like, well, they thought a lot of crazy things for 20 years and you never thought or said anything. So why did you fuel that for so long? But a lot of these donors, they're fueling it because it's all about one policy. It's all about one narrative. And as long as that narrative is protected or benefiting, then they don't care what the left or the right does. But the second that narrative, then all of a sudden they're upset. But this is why, in my opinion, in America, they should have looked at Marxism 30 years ago and been like, this is a problem. This is turning women into feminists. This is turning men into women. This is turning, America loving people into American hating people. And they're not even hating America for the right reasons. And, it's like now we have this huge mess. The country is a total mess. So I'm not a Marxist. I'm not like sorry to use the word boomer again. I'm not Mark Levin. I'm not Dan Bongino. I'm not Charlie Kirk. I'm not Ben Shapiro. I'm not, blah, 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 like I'm not out here just blowhard yelling things. I'm analyzing the situation. I'm not on the side of the Marxist. It's just interesting to me how they know. I'm just saying, like, strategy wise, they know that Joe Biden sucks and they know that Donald Trump sucks. So they're following what they want to do based off of no one's coming to save us. Republicans never get anything done because they constantly think somebody's going to save them. Most Republicans did not know George Bush sucked. They loved George Bush and they called me a conspiracy theorist my whole childhood. They were like, oh, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists. It's the same thing they're doing in Israel now. It's either you're with us or you're with the terrorists. It's the same copy paste, framing of a situation in order to frame you as insane if you're anti-war. So I've already lived through this. It's not shocking to me. It's the same. It's like so obviously the same. It's not even funny. You can make a point for your side, but if it's like us or the terrorists, it's like you're either with Ukraine, the democracy, or you're with Putin, the totalitarian terrorist. It's like, that's one way to frame it if you're a pathological liar, or you could be honest about the situation. But, I think that's what I see with I don't even know where I was going with that, but I said enough. Someone said I was never a George Bush fan. Yeah, that's what I was saying. And then it's like most people believed McCain. Most people believed Romney. And then like the Tea Party movement and Ron Paul was getting popular, and Donald Trump pretended to be all those things. Donald Trump pretended to be a truther mixed with Ron Paul, mixed with like the Tea Party movement. And he's really like not, so it's like, that's all I'm saying is the left-wing students, they know nobody's going to save them. So they've had success, or tried to almost have. I wouldn't even say they've had success, but they've definitely gotten closer to getting a politician to give a shit about them. No one on the right, like no one cares about what right wingers think because they don't think their own things. They think what Trump tells them to think. Like we're in a lockdown, and the number one agenda of everybody, because it's like, there's masks on an airplane. They're about to push the vaccines. Like this should have been the number one agenda for everybody. Like, hey, let's all organize peacefully and make sure that all of this stuff stops. But instead, Donald Trump's like, hey, run circles around me for 3 months in the election, and then go to the Capitol, and then everyone's going to get arrested, and then there's going to be no anti-protest because everybody's going to get in trouble. And it's like, and then for like 2 years later, it's like Mike Lindell is going to save you with his cyber symposium in August. And, they're always like running you around. I personally, I just believe that Republicans would benefit from realizing that no one's going to come save them, because their thought of somebody saving them is the reason that they're never accomplishing anything. Like, the party's worse than it was 7 years ago. Like, Mike Johnson is perhaps the worst House Speaker we've ever had. He's one of the most, I don't know if I want to use the word traitorous, but it's like him sending the money and not getting the border wall is absolutely disgusting. He's horrific. He's Nancy Pelosi in drag. And, and then everybody's at a rally in Wildwood thinking Trump's going to save them. It's embarrassing. So it is what it is. But as long as there's a fake leader, giving the illusion of change, then no one's ever going to actually get anything done. And to me, this is the exact same copy paste strategy of Operation Trust, which is, you could get books from 100 years ago, where it's the same thing they did. They told people to trust this plan of like generals behind the scenes, because then people wouldn't face reality. If people realized what was going on, there's always going to be a new leader. There's always going to be someone who fits the bill. And then, like, even in Europe, when things go the wrong direction, eventually they go the right direction. But that's what controlled opposition is too. A lot of these European right-wing populists, they're really not right-wing populists. They just realize, okay, everything's going to shift back, so let's get our guy in there as the right-wing conservative, like Meloni from Italy. She was supposed to stop all the migration, and she got in, and she didn't. You know what I'm saying? I think she failed because she was always a puppet, but one that said what right-wingers wanted to hear. So all I'm saying is, like, this strategy, it's not crazy to think about, because I know, like, even like years ago, I didn't want to talk about it that much because I want to be really sure of what I'm talking about. I don't like to like falsely accuse or anything, but the smart people, the donors, the billionaires, the, industries and lobbyists, et cetera, people that really can sway society. They know they're not trying to lose the election. And the best way to not lose the election is to control the opposition, and it's been happening all over the world for a long, long time. So it is what it is, but it's like, as long as Republicans keep thinking someone's going to do something that they're not going to do, you're just wasting time. Like, it's like the last 6 years is like a wash. But even like people, when I read people's things, they're like, remember how great it was? And like Trump even tweeted like a couple months ago, he was like, weren't you better off 4 years ago? And he tweeted it like in 2024. It's like 4 years ago was a lockdown. It's like they're trying to gaslight, and it's not saying it's his fault directly, but it's like, if you look at someone's 4 years, it's like Reagan was really cool and really nice. 8 years later, yeah, he was cool and nice and the country was good, but he pushed 4 to 5 policies, if you really research that, it set America up for failure. It's like, it's basically like poking holes in the bottom of a boat and then saying like, well, the boat didn't sink during my term. And then the next president gets in and 30 years later it sinks. It's like, yeah, that's what Reagan did. He poked like 5 holes in the bottom of America in the boat, metaphorically. And then over time, it destroyed, like, California will never be Republican because of Ronald Reagan, because of his amnesty plan, is what it is. It's just like, if you want Republican, if you wanted California to be Republican, Reagan is one of the reasons it never will be. Like, demographics are real, and it's probably never going to be again. With that being said, it's the same thing with Trump. With the COVID printing, he poked a huge hole in the bottom of the boat, and Republicans don't even know that. They're like, oh, it was Biden. It's like, it's definitely, Biden's not innocent. He's not helping. He's no economic genius, and he's certainly not fiscally conservative. But Trump did just as much economic damage as Obama. But you can't trying to argue with a Trump supporter or conservative who won't tell the truth about that is as crazy as arguing with a liberal. Like, it's stressful to even do it. Like, I've done it. I'm willing to debate publicly with people, but as far as like arguing with comment section, it's like talking to an old woman who's been watching Rachel Maddow for 10 years straight. Like, you're not going to win the debate because they're never going to listen. That's a lot of Republicans now. They just don't know it because no one will tell them that. But it's the same way. And like, what I'm trying to do here is analysis. Like, when I got into the media, I'll just let you know, 2016, I started realizing, because I'm a smart guy. I use the internet. I know how things work. Like, I've been on the internet for decades. I've always been pretty much like I'm not going to say an internet whiz, but like, I was making websites when I was like 15 years old. Like, I know how the internet works. So I started putting the pieces together. I knew the media was fake, but now I could see it. It's the New York Times. It's the Washington Post. They won't publish a positive piece, not just about Donald Trump, but they won't even do it about Bernie Sanders. It's like it's all Hillary Clinton. It's all superdelegates. It's all the election's over. Your vote doesn't matter. And I could see clearly which media companies were doing it. So then I got passionate about speaking about it because I was like, well, this is not fair. Now it's the same thing on the conservative side. It's like I could see, like I saw in 2019, Daily Wire, Turning Point USA. It's not that all the work they're doing is bad, but in my opinion, they're like in many ways controlled opposition, where they're the opposition to the left and they're better than the left, but they're only so much better. And if you ever get really better, where it's actually going to fix the problem, then they get mad at you and they call you names and they don't want to work with you, but they'll work with Rick Scott and they'll take donor money and they'll put Ted Cruz on a stage after he says, he thinks only vaccinated people should take their masks off on an airplane. So it's like, that's why I talk about what I talk about, because I could see now the same way I could see why liberal media is fake and why liberal media is working in unison to basically brainwash people. If you got 20 news companies saying the same thing that's wrong, well, an anonymous source told the New York Times that the Washington Post told CNN that the anonymous source said that Trump worked with Russia, and then they all say it in unison, and then MSNBC says it, and CBS says it, and ABC says it, and NBC says it. Everyone's like, oh, no, everybody's saying it. That must be true. It's like, no, that's what they do. It's hard to explain to someone that's a normie because they're like, I don't want to think that much. It's like, that's fine. Then just don't watch the television, because if you're not thinking that much, but you're believing what they're saying, you're just getting lied to. It's better to just ignore completely. On the right, I know why nobody knows everything. I could go to like every news company. It's like they're getting completely controlled. If they're not being bought out by donors and they're not being basically suppressed, like it's like with Tucker Carlson, he probably knew that his days were coming at Fox News. Tucker's not perfect, but he was the best at Fox News. He was doing the most truth telling. It was only a matter of time before they kicked him out, right? Now that he's done, he can do a few other things that he never could do. It's the same way with a lot of stuff. And even the independent journalists that are big, influencers, they're getting lobbied by Donald Trump. It's like once they hang out with Donald Trump, once they, network with Dana White, et cetera, then they just become like, it's just like professional look the other way on those topics. Like, I'm not the only one who knows that Trump took a meeting with Bill Gates in 2018. He not only took a meeting, which is fine, he passed an executive order for a flu vaccine in 2019 that matched what Bill Gates told him in 2018. Every Republican influencer pretends like Bill Gates is the globalist and the agenda that we disagree with, but they don't even know that Trump is essentially working for him. But they don't want to know, because if they knew that and they reported it, now they lose access to Mar-a-Lago. Now they lose access to some of the donors that are connected to the Trumps. Now they lose access to the social galas, which get them in other places. So they're acting purposely ignorant, the same way Chris Cuomo at CNN pretends like lockdowns are awesome. He didn't even follow his own lockdown orders because he knows instinctually it's ridiculous and it's not healthy. He's a healthy guy. But he did it because that's what his media company told him. And he knew telling the truth about that would put him out of a job. But turns out he was out of a job anyway. So it's like people just don't want to admit that that's happening on the right, which is why we get Speaker Johnson. Someone said, why not to tell fans to vote their money out with Bitcoin? Because I'm not a big Bitcoin believer, but I'm not against it. If you like Bitcoin, do it. Research it if you think it's the future. I'm not a huge fan of like digital money. Like I don't fully trust it. But if you do, knock yourself out. I'm not the biggest like Bitcoin fanatic. Someone said Anomaly needs 30 million subscribers. I appreciate it. Thank you. YouTube is what it is. I've been successful on other platforms more than YouTube, but I've done well for myself, and I'll take what I could get. Things that go like this. If I'm in it for the long run and I'm not trying to just get in and get out, then I'm not really tripping about like numbers. Like I've had like 10,000 people, 20,000 people watching me live. I've had 400. Things go up, things go down. I post a video on Instagram, it gets 100,000 views. This will get what it gets, and then I'll get 40 million impressions on Twitter. It's like things. I'm not tripping over numbers, followers, or I'm more looking at like business wise, like what do I at least need to like not go out of business? That's important. But besides that, I want people to see it. But the thing is, people see other stuff now. Just on the marketing side, because I think it's interesting. Twitter and Facebook, they pay you to post pictures now. You know what I'm saying? Like Facebook, some people are saying, oh, I'm being shadow banned on Facebook. You might be, but you also might not realize that Facebook's not showing live streams. 3 years ago, I could have 6,000 people in a live stream. Now, they're just not showing live streams because they want you to watch short content and comment on memes. I posted a meme the other day that got like 10,000 shares. So it's like, it's just changing. You know, it's not, I don't like how it is. I liked it better when my videos got hundreds of thousands of shares and millions of views every day. But like, they're changing their website. YouTube, you know, I would say YouTube rewards live streams. Rumble rewards live streams. Facebook does not reward live streams. Instagram doesn't reward people at all. I mean, you can get 1 million views on Facebook and they'll throw a penny at your face. Like they don't pay creators like barely anything. So TikTok banned me, you know, so I'm just flowing with it. But in general, it's like when I used to get 1 million views on every Facebook video, there was no Instagram video. Now that I do, like I could just look what my last one got on Instagram now. It's like I'm not tripping because it's like things kind of rotate. You know, it's not like no one sees my content. They just don't see it the same. I did a Instagram reel today. It's got, let me see, 56,000 views, 1,300 shares. I only posted it like 2 hours ago. It's like, that's just, but they just don't pay for it. So it is what it is. But I'm not tripping about, I appreciate that you think I should have a lot of subscribers. I think I should have more, but it is what it is. You know, there's ways to like, I think shorts get you subscribers now. I don't know. I don't do that many shorts. So like if you just pump out like 1,000 shorts, then you can get more subscribers on YouTube. Maybe I could try it, but thank you, Marla. She said your live streams address real issues in real time. I like the live streams. I mean, they do well. They do well on Facebook now. Like I used to get way more views on Facebook. Now I get way more views on YouTube. So it's just like, you know, there'll be a day in a year where everything changes again. This is why I'm still here, though. It's like I always figure out when things change, and then I have to just change a little bit. So someone said, I hope Anomaly doesn't get banned from YouTube. I would hope so as well, but we'll see. Elon, regardless of what you think of him on other topics, like him buying Twitter and allowing people back on, he really changed the game. Nobody would have paid people for like pictures and comments and regular posts if Elon didn't do it. He did that. And he said, I'm going to pay users and give them a rev share of just ads when they post. And then Facebook started doing it. Facebook never would have done that if they didn't have to compete with Twitter. So he's helped a lot, in my opinion. I don't know what would have happened if he didn't buy that, but someone said you clickbait in the title. No, I just literally do a live stream. It's you're like there's actually a button here. I'm gonna help you out, big guy. Appreciate you, my guy. If you scroll back, if you're just like tuning in now and you're like, oh, I'm in a live stream. Wow, look at me. You can scroll back on YouTube and you can watch the exact non-clickbait title. Like you could watch it right now. You don't even have to be here. So you could scroll back and see that, but you can't come into a show later and be like, where's the first joke? It's like, well, you're an hour late. You're like, oh, why is everyone clapping? It's like, because the show's over. It's like, oh, well, it's clickbait. It's like, no, you just showed up at the wrong time. You know, it's not a clickbait. You're just an hour and 22 minutes late into a live stream. So I'm not going to sit there and say the same topic for an hour and 22 minutes or else the video would be 40 minutes long. No, it's all good. I'm just kind of roasting you, but in a nice way. Someone said China and India kicked Elon off the moon. I don't believe any of that stuff personally, but I don't know. Like are they really on the moon? It's like, I'm going to build a rocket on Mars, or we don't have people on Mars, but we're going to build hot tubs on Mars. It's like, I don't believe any of those headlines. I said headlights. What did Elon say recently? Elon build on Mars or something. He's like, I'm going to build let me see. I got to see the new headline. What did it say? Elon's latest pitch. Someone said they were going to build some like build on Mars, like high speed. Was it like a high speed rail or something? Projected to, I don't know, whatever. Who cares? But it was like they were saying they're going to build something crazy on like Mars or the moon. And I'm like, why would you build infrastructure on Mars and the moon when you don't even have people there? I mean, I get you have to build it first, but it's like, wouldn't you build like an apartment complex before you build like a high-speed rail or whatever the hell they were building? Like, it's like the dumb. They're like, look at this picture of Pluto. If you give us $50 bajillion, we'll build the elevator on Uranus in 2069. If you give us the $30 billion a year, we'll build a Ferris wheel on Venus in 2043. And then, like, when it happens, they're like, oh, we got delayed. It's like, oh, you got delayed? What about the $300 billion that you've gotten since then? They're like, oh, climate change. We've been, we're measuring climate change in the Antarctica. Oh, okay, for sure. That's cool. It's like, and then, like, people on Reddit, like liberals on Reddit are like, oh my gosh, I'm so smart. I'm researching the moon. Whoa, I'm really smart. I'm in college and I care about aliens and the moon. Did you hear Joe Rogan and Tucker talk about aliens? Oh my gosh, you think they're the real ones? Oh, it's like, normie culture disgusts me. Disgusting. And did you see Duncan Trussell? He talked about the aliens, dude. I went on aliens Reddit and it was like, oh my gosh, I just looked at it was like, oh my gosh, I looked at Venus through a telescope. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we give NASA $50 trillion. I mean, they really need it. These stupid right wingers like Annie Bravo. I mean, how could they not want to not fund NASA? Like, what are we gonna do in the space? Oh my gosh, China's gonna beat us, and we don't fund the new project on Mars for 2055. Putin's gonna beat us up from a space laser. It's like, normies disgust me. Disgust. Anyway, we can't explore Antarctica. I wonder why. Oh, I gotta get, like, I don't know. I don't know what people on Reddit sound like. Something like that. They love Elon for the tunnels. There's a New York City joke in there. I'm just not going to make it. I've said enough today. Too bad we've never. Hey, listen, we've been so far. Dude. We've gone, like, they'll send up a drone and it just flies and flies and flies. And it's like every 5,000 miles per hour that it flies, NASA gets like $10 million. It's awesome. I'm upsetting Neil deGrasse fed Bison Tyson. Yeah, I don't know. I apologize, Neil. It wasn't me. But she caught me on the counter. Wasn't me. Saw me out on Uranus. Wasn't me. Even caught me up in Venus. Wasn't me. Needed $50 billion to go to the moon again. Wasn't me. Can't find telemetry data. Wasn't me. Can't fit the women's spacesuits. Wasn't me. They literally said that one time. They're like, we canceled the mission because the women's spacesuits didn't fit. We thought they would fit, but the women, I mean, who would have known right before, like, they didn't fit? Like, it's like canceling like a basketball game, being like, oh, Steph Curry's jersey didn't fit. We didn't know until today. It's like, what? I mean, it's even worse than that, because that would make more sense, because it's just a jersey. Like, you don't do like heavy trials on a spacesuit. They're like, oh, it didn't fit the women. What are you, reusing spacesuits, you sicko? Make a new. Oh, she had big old things on, and they didn't fit in Neil Armstrong's spacesuit. Get a new one. You know what I'm saying? Customize it. I would think that thing would look like it'd be custom suited. I'm like, I don't know what reason they gave. That's my favorite one. Let me find that one. Woman, NASA space suit canceled, delay. Let's see. NASA decision not suited for women. First all-female spacewalk canceled because NASA doesn't have two suits that fit. Darn it. We almost sent women there, but the spacesuits didn't fit. That classic trope, that classic feminist, sexist trope. Oh, if spacesuits don't fit. You got to be kidding me. Like, there's no pre-trials of that. They're not being real careful with like the size of everything. I'm not going to space in a baggy suit. I'm not going to space at all, but it's like, you think I'm going in a baggy leftover suit? Like, that, we better have like whatever it's called, like costume. What's it called? Like rehearsal. There better be 50 rehearsals before you send me up in a freaking rocket. I'm not just putting on a suit. Like, oh, does it fit? Bro, you better know it fits 50 times before I step foot in that. I'm not Lance Bass, okay? I'm not just jumping in that thing, fucking playing a game. All right, this is real life for me. Unreal. Like it's just, but some of these things to me, I'm like wondering where it's like, is it really happening? Is it like a humiliation ritual where they're like, we know these people are so jacked up on Adderall and Ozempic that they don't even know where they are anymore. It's like people are so like off the pharmaceuticals and off the they're like, dude, we're just gonna say this and no one's even gonna notice. And then it's like no one does notice. And then Reddit's like, oh yeah, Pluto, we're going tomorrow. It's like I saw this image. Okay, well, look at the Milky Way, dude. That's so cool, dude. Just Saying said, thanks for being honest. Thank you, Just Saying. I'm just saying. Appreciate you. Just Saying. That's your name. Just Saying. Anyway, someone said 80% of the country is drugged up for sure. Listen, I get it. It's crazy. It's a crazy world. I'm not advocating for it, but it's like I understand it. It's like, some people got to just throw one back in order to deal with this shit. Dylan, the guy, said, you just focus on jokes. Hey man, you just focus on the jokes. I'm here for the story. I mean, you made jokes for 5 minutes straight and everybody's laughing, but I'm upset. Get to the real story. Dude, just scroll back, bro. If you really want the not jokes, which is 95% of the stream, scroll back, dude. Scroll back. I'm sorry that everyone's laughing. I'm so sorry for adding humor to people's lives. I'm so sorry, bro. It's like, get the fuck over yourself, dude. Unreal. You're just focusing on the humor now. It's just like, oh, Mr. Funny Guy here. Oh, I want to hear about Aaron Rodgers. Tell me about Bohemian Grove right now. I'm a conspiracy. Okay. I mean, Richard Nixon, he said they're all gay and he doesn't want to shake their hands in San Francisco. Okay. Anyway. Nixon called the moon. The nation is still paying for his price plan tariffs. Yeah, they all did some suspect activity, Every president did something a little sneaky, but it is what it is, Who am I to judge? I'm a monk. I don't even talk about politics. That's what I'm going to do, like every other analyst. Like, literally, they like talk about everything, but when it comes, thank you. Someone said I'm here for the humor. Appreciate it. So like everyone's always like talking about everything all the time. And then like the second there's like a topic they don't want to talk about, they're like, I'm just a Christian. I don't they're like, I don't judge. It's like your whole page is like judging though. You're like, yeah, but I don't really judge. You're like, you just don't want to talk about Trump's involvement with the pharmaceutical industry. And they're like, no, who's perfect. I was talking about I probably shouldn't do this, but whatever. I was talking to my buddy about the PBD thing. Apparently Dave Smith is going to debate Patrick. I guess that's what I'm going to do in 2 months. I don't feel like it now because I need to chill out. But like in 2 months, I'm just going to talk shit about Tim Pool publicly and be like, Patrick, host a debate. Then Patrick just wants to like monetize something. So I don't think he cares about, like my reporting. So I'll just like, Tim Pool sucks and wears a beanie. Let's do a debate. And then Patrick's like, okay, I'll pay, make money off it or whatever, sell tickets. So maybe that'll happen. But anyway, I was talking to my buddy about like the PBD thing where he was talking about Cuomo and he was like, well, none of us are perfect. It's it's like no one's talking about perfection. It's just such a funny bit where it's like, you're like, did you hear about that guy who just like, he was doing like chain arsons. He just burned down 1,000 houses and you're like, none of us are perfect. It's like, no one said they're perfect, but that guy's burning thousands of houses. It's like, it's the craziest gaslighting tactic where it's like, of course, I understand that no one's perfect. Like, I'm not nitpicking over nothing. Chris Cuomo is objectively horrific. He's ruined millions of lives, and he's a mainstream media shill. Like, he's not only not perfect, he's by far not good. Like, when you compare him to everyone else in the space on the internet, he's by far worse. But it's like the none of us are perfect bit. It's like, dude, that guy he just killed thousands of people, and you're like, oh geez, well, none of us are perfect. And it's like, no one said it. Everyone was perfect. Like it's interesting because these tactics are like, they work on a lot of people. You just throw in like first of all, I hired Chris Cuomo because none of us are perfect. It's like, Okay, I hired Anthony Fauci because none of us are perfect. Hey guys, Anthony Fauci is part of the Dream Rare podcast. He's going to be my new trusted news analyst. And you're like, why? Fauci sucks. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Perfect here has a problem with Anthony Fauci. Oh, look, Mr. Perfect's over here. None of us are perfect. It's like, yeah, no one's perfect, but Fauci objectively blows and no one has to like him in conservative media. You know, like that, like the tactic of that is so funny because so many people are like, that makes sense. And it's like, not really though, you know, like it's like, imagine if I said that when he criticizes Biden or anyone criticizes Biden, they're like the Bidenomics sucks. The Biden economy sucks. I'm like, no one's perfect, dude. I mean, he's trying his best. It's like, yeah, no one's perfect, but can we not do we not talk about Biden? You know, like, don't you talk about how much Biden sucks all the time or no? Let's just not do that because no one, you know, no one's perfect. It's like, it's just so funny. Like, okay, then let's not even have a show. Let's just talk about nothing all the time. Someone said no one's perfect except for Jesus. Yeah, but it's like the people that say that, they don't not judge everyone. You know, that's what I'm saying. They're like, if they didn't judge everyone, then I'm like, yeah, that guy doesn't care. But if they're constantly talking about everyone all the time, but except for people that, like, you know, they own, you know, like, it's just so funny. You're like, I'm trying, like, who's the worst? Just tell me, like, the worst person in media or politics. Who's the worst? It's like if I signed Dianne Feinstein for like a news segment. You guys are like, Dianne Feinstein, I'm mad at you, Anomaly. Why would you hire Dianne Feinstein? I'm like, no one's perfect but Jesus. It's like, yeah, no, for sure. But like, also, you don't have to like that you don't have to like that I hired Dianne Feinstein. You know, like that just because Jesus was perfect and no one else. Like, it's just so funny. Someone said, you stop laughing. What are you, Satan or something? You the heat miser from my favorite Christmas movie? Stop laughing. Stop smiling. What are you, the Grinch? Ebenezer Scrooge? Stop laughing. All right. Sorry, Mom. Yeah, it's clean your room. It's like the nerve of some people is crazy. Why would you tell someone to stop laughing? I mean, if we're in a library, shh. Stop laughing. Snark is top level. Yeah, it's fine. Whoopi Goldberg is not perfect. Not only is she not perfect, she's also not Jewish. But I think Whoopi Goldberg, we haven't talked about her in years. I used to always do my Whoopi Goldberg bit because she changed her name to a Jewish last name, and her name is like Elaine. But she's like, Whoopi Goldberg, you know, it's just us Jews out here in the media just crushing. And they're like, you know, she's like, it would be pretty racist if you said I wasn't. It would be pretty racist if you said I wasn't Jewish. And like all these people that are probably actually Jewish in media are like, yeah, we don't want to look racist, so I guess we'll just pretend that you are. No. And then she had if you look at her Wikipedia, it's the best. It's like she did a DNA test and she's like not Jewish or whatever. Like, you know, she's like sub-Saharan African, but like maybe like a little Jewish, maybe not. But they're like, what's your name? They're like, what's your name? You're like, Goldberg. They're like, that sounds Jewish. You're like, yeah. I'm here to, you know, be on The View and stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure that was like, I mean, maybe she really got into Judaism. I don't know. My guess is like she wanted to, you know, finesse a few circles and just be like, yeah, for sure, we're crushing out here. Like, can I get a job? She's like, I heard that ancient trope that, you know, is totally not true, that you guys do well in media, even though I've heard several jokes from you that you are doing well in media, you know? So anyway, speaking of which, Goldberg here, can I get a job? Yeah, sure. We'll put you on The View. We'll put you in Ghost 2 or whatever. And she's like, oh, for sure. And then like 30 years later, they're like, wait, she had to take a break one time. What did she say that was like anti-Semitic? I forget. I want to look at it. Hold on. Whoopi Goldberg, anti-Semitic, that darn anti-Semitism. ABC suspends Whoopi Goldberg for comments about Jews, race, and the Holocaust. Dear Lord, what did she say? Whoopi Goldberg was suspended for 2 weeks as a co-host of The View because of what she said about her wrong and hurtful comments about Jews. While Whoopi Goldberg has apologized, I've asked her to take some time to reflect and learn about the impacts of her comments. The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, families, friends, and communities. What did she say? I forget what she said. Does anybody remember what she actually said? She's like, what do you mean? I'm one of you. And they're like, no. They're like, take a break. You know, I'm one of you. I could say it. She's like, come on. My last name's Goldberg. She's like, I'm just another one of you. And they're like, you're not, though. And you should take a break to think about what you said, AKA know that your job's on the line and never say that again. Okay. Because the only way to prove that we have no power in media is to, give you a break and say that you offend. It's like Whoopi Goldberg has offended a lot of people, mostly smart people, mostly honest people, mostly conservatives. Like everything she says is like stupid, That was the funniest one to me because it's like she's been dumb for 10 years now on mainstream television. Like now people are like, yo, she said something dumb. It's like, it's The View. Isn't that what they do? They just say dumb things for dumb people and dumb people think it's smart or something because they're women. I don't know. It's not, I don't watch it. Oh, she said it. She said World War II is like white on white crime. Yeah, that's a no-no. I mean, well, that also proves that she's lying about her because, if you really were, you would know the difference. That's just proving that she's like kind of faking a little bit. I don't want to say a Rachel Dolezal situation, but it's a little bit of a Rachel Dolezal situation, in my opinion. Rachel Dolezal shows up, curls her hair, says she's black, is the head of the NCAACP. It's feeling a little Rachel Dolezal-y to me because, a real one would know the difference, in my opinion. You wouldn't be like, oh, it's all the same. And they're like, yeah, if it's all the same, then why don't you take a break from ABC and we'll see how the same it is. And she's like, wait, it's like Whoopi needs to read the Old Testament, the Zohar and the Talmud and apologize because she's way behind. Maybe she should take a year off and read the whole Talmud and then come back to ABC News, because with that attitude, she does not know what she's talking about. Anyway, where were we? Did I see the old clip of The View where they were trying to shut up the comedian talking about Bill Clinton? Yeah, I think that was Norm Macdonald, right? Norm Macdonald was awesome for sure. Anyway, where was we? I'm not going to stay too much longer, probably like within 5 to 7 minutes. I'm going to exit my own show. Then I'm going to hit the button that ends the show for everyone because I'm in control. Someone said Whoopi should join the IDF. Dude, that's a really funny bit right there. Like a funny skit would be like, Whoopi's like, I'm Whoopi Goldberg. I'm Jewish. And they're like, okay, do you want to join the IDF? And she's like, they're like, go ahead. Yeah. It's like, she's like, I don't really want to. But I also like making her take a year break and making her read the Old Testament, the Talmud, and the Zohar. That would be like funny too. And then she comes back a year later because it probably takes a long time to read the Talmud because it's a lot of books. It looks like an encyclopedia. So it's like, take a year off, come back. And then, next time you offend us, we're shipping you and you got to join the IDF. Whoopi would be like, oh, she's like, never mind. My name's different. You're like, okay, the truth is coming out, Mrs. Dolezal. Anyway, why Whoopi? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not her manager. People are like, why did she choose the first name Whoopi? I don't know. Ask her. Someone said most Christians don't even know what's in the Talmud. Probably not. There's certain things that if you bring up, you just get called like anti-Semitic. Like if you're like, oh, does the Quran exist? A Muslim will be like, yeah, that's our book. You should read it. If you're like, does the Bible exist? It'd be like, yeah, you should read it. And then if you're like, does the Talmud exist? They'll be like, you're anti-Semitic. You're like, oh, okay. You post like a headline from like an Israeli paper and people are like, your anti-Semitism is just oozing out of you. And it's like, it's not, it's an Israeli paper. Like they wrote it. I don't like, why is a random person in America more offended by an Israeli media headline than the person who wrote it in Israel? I don't understand it, but whatever. I kind of do understand it, to be honest. It's whatever. Someone said buy a $60 Trump Talmud. Trump with that Bible, he made a Trump Bible. Dude, that would be another funny bit would be Trump making other religious texts. You know how he made a Bible with like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in it? He should do that with the Quran and also like the Talmud and just see what, like, like the backlash would be so much bigger. Like Christians, there were a few pastors that were like, this is sacrilegious. You do not put other texts in the Bible. It's for everybody. But most pastors were like, let's just give more money to Ukraine and Israel. What would they do if Trump put, if he put a Bill of Rights and what was it? The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, I forget, maybe the Declaration of Independence. If he put it in a Quran and was like, this is for all my based Muslim supporters. And then he's like, for all my based Jewish supporters, here's a Talmud with the Bill of Rights. Dude, Muslims and Orthodox probably would not be that pumped about it, But I'm all, that would be really funny just to see like what would happen. I don't see it going over as well, but to be fair, there were a lot of pastors that did not like that. I think it's sacrilegious. I like the Bill of Rights. I like the Constitution, and I like the Declaration of Independence, I think it is, or the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know, but like, it doesn't need to be in a Bible. Like, to me, what he should have done, I know he's Trump, right? He does everything, but put it to the side of it. Be like, I'll sell Bibles in this like separately, in a smaller book. You don't put it in the Bible. Like, that's just kind of a, it's kind of a suspect move in my opinion, but whatever. Someone said there will be no election. I mean, I don't know about that, but I will say that we've supported democracies that don't like to have elections. So I think there'll be an election. I don't think they would do that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. Everything's so weird, but I think Trump's probably going to win. Speaking of which, I'll probably do another video if nothing else comes up about the debate. And then also, so there's going to be a debate between Trump and Biden, and there's a few other topics that I kind of put to the side, but we could talk about that a little. I just don't like, I'll watch it and I'll react to it, but I don't really have too much to say about it. It's like, we'll see what happens. I don't think RFK is going to be on the stage, but am I a modern day prophet? I don't know. Watch tomorrow to find out. Out. But, no, I just pay attention. I don't know. You can call it what you want, but I read things and see things and then report back to you. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back soon. And I'm trying to keep it under 2 hours. It's a little unnecessary any higher, but it is fun to chat and make jokes. I know some people don't like the jokes, but I don't like to be serious all the time. Sometimes it's fun just to be funny, like, if you don't mind. I know there's some people that were very offended by it or whatever, but appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. I'll be back tomorrow with a new live stream, and check my links, dreamrarelinks.com or dreamrare.com. Dreamrare.com is my shop. Dreamrarelinks.com is all my links. And if you want to check out the shop, we're running low on supplies because I'm probably going to do some other stuff after I sell out of everything. So if you want a hat, a black hat, you want a, freedom versus tyranny shirt, I think a big farmer, not big pharma shirt. I don't think there's very many left. I haven't checked the numbers recently, but if you want any of that stuff, check it out soon. I would say probably by summer, the end of summer, it'll be gone. And I'm going to try to roll something out for fall. So check it out. And also sign up to my free email list at stayintouchwithme.com. Check that out. If I ever do another percentages off, I usually do that in my email list. So if you do want percentages off the merch, like a couple of times a year, I'll usually do that for people that are subscribed to my email. Appreciate you. Have a beautiful day. To those who want to see what's in the description, you could always rewind. The longer streams, I talk about it early in the first 20, 30 minutes, and then I talk about other stuff. So that's the format. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Dreamer Podcast over and out. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, Stay Blessed long sleeve, God is Great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. DreamRare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/RareTalk. For $5 a month, you can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the DreamRare.com shop and Patreon.com/RareTalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me